Good morning.
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
Good morning.
how are we doing this fine winter?
It's
Almost
always,
Valentine's Day, huh?
that's right. Always something going on. Yeah, yeah, Valentine's Day is coming up. We won't be taking the sweetheart out to the restaurants this year.
Sumit, does your culture celebrate Valentine's Day?
Well, yes and no. So we've got two kinds of people, one who try and celebrate it, the other ones who try and stop the first category. So everyone has fun.
Well, I have to say my absolute wonderful executive assistant made these cute little bags for all of our staff yesterday and brought them in. And inside there's like a little face mask in there and just different things to give to the staff yesterday. I just thought it was super cute, but some of my employees are saying, yeah, I'm single. I'm not going to celebrate it that way. So
Well, yeah, but it's I think that uh, it's good to embrace all those holidays. And I give my wife when she asks what are we going to do for Valentine's Day, I was like, oh, that's a Hallmark holiday, we're not going to do anything. But
yeah,
it's good to always do
that's
something,
a
right?
Hallmark holiday. It's all about the money. Well, you guys are going to be super impressed with what I'm doing for Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah, tell us.
So I'm going to be off and running this afternoon because Bruce and I are going to Belize.
Oh
So
wow.
So we're packing up
Awesome.
this afternoon and we'll be headed out 6 a.m. bright and early to Belize. So that's going to be awesome. You know, San Pedro Island where Madonna has her songs, San
Oh
Pedro
wow.
Island.
Hmm.
Yeah. This will be our third time trying to go down to Belize. And each time, the first time Bruce didn't realize it was a little more third world on the main Belize city.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time he tried to take us to the island that he thought Madonna was, but he took us to a more rustic small island. So this third time's a charm. This is the one that we're trying to get to. So it'll be fun.
Well,
But
how
that's where,
exciting.
yeah, well, it's a different side of Mexico area. It's a little bit, it's a very unique country. Uh, it's been a while since I've been there, but they all speak English, even though in their heritage, language, they don't. So it's pretty fascinating. It's a very fine mixture of cultures, but at a young age, all the kids are taught how to talk English. So it's kind of fascinating. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I apologize. I'm going to be in a nice warmness, mid 80 degrees.
Yeah, well, that's cool to hear. So everyone, as our listeners are joining in, so Char's just sharing that she's going to have a very special Valentine's Day in Belize, and so we're excited to hear about that. While people are joining up and we're getting ready to get started, we'll start in about 3 minutes.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
so
here in
Char,
Colorado now. Yeah, what were you going to say?
no, just are you going to do some special activities, or do you know yet, or is this?
Yeah, we do scuba and snorkeling and stuff, but I have to admit I'm not certified. I like to have kind of a guide with me at all times. I'm not a certified scuba diver, but we're gonna try the Blue Hole
Oh,
this time. So I don't know that I guess it's one of the largest one of the most famous spots for scuba divers.
yeah, I've heard
So
about that. But I don't know it. I can't picture it, but I've heard about that. So it's
you'll
a
get to see lots of pictures. I'll post. Well, you don't pay attention to social media.
so I have to take a look at that. Yeah, I'm posting it on Facebook, right?
Yeah, probably because I'm old. But yeah, it'll be fun and hopefully it's smooth going.
Hmm.
But it's good to get to a different location. I've been doing that a lot this year, so it's been kind of a fascinating year.
Yeah, yeah.
And it seems like a lot of company leaders are doing the same. So it's been quite the experience learning about other company leaders are doing and
Hmm.
the times of transitioning to remote work themselves, as well as supporting their employees with the remote work. So
Right.
it's
Yes, that
pretty
was
interesting.
I think the HR Happy Hour podcast. I think it was that one I was listening to yesterday. I was talking about remote leaders, or how leaders are making a first impression in the remote world. I think that was if I got the right podcast. Hopefully I'm right. But it was interesting because as we know, when leadership, I mean, it's a big drive to be able to show your impact within the first 90 days, right?
Right.
And so showing your impact and making those connections and so forth in the remote environment has its own unique sets of challenges. So I thought it was a pretty interesting discussion. So
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Well, my company's still in person, so we have to travel back a lot to see our people face to face. But yeah, it's a challenge to constantly be visible, work through remote systems to keep up with your leaders every week, and give them the personal TLC that they need to feel supported and not abandoned.
Right. Yeah.
And
So we definitely have to talk. I know that we're going to be talking about the leadership development in that context with Meredith Massey, I believe, in the next few weeks on the forum. And so I'm excited to go through that. But today we're going to be talking about developing teams. And I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here. So I want to really kick things off.
That sounds great. Yeah, just rocking and rolling as we get going today. And nice to see everyone joining us here. And as we get our screen pulled up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you see my screen now?
No, I see something like a distribution list or something.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm sharing the wrong one. Let's start over here. So
I mean, I can imagine your office, Sam. You probably got like 10 monitors.
Oh, I got the command center. Yeah, it's like
command center. I could tell. So should we get going?
Yes, please. Let's
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, wherever you are in the globe, in this wonderful world. Welcome to our People Strategies Forum, and so happy to have you. We are just going on with our People Strategies Forum. I think we're going to be pretty close to be coming up on a year before too long, right? At the end of March, I think at the end of March, we started that back in 2020. So welcome. We are a mastermind of leaders dedicated to creating workplaces where people thrive and employers reward and customers love. And so we are so excited to have you on board, either through our lives or through our actual panelists or our forum webinar. So thank you. So I just want to say good morning or afternoon. I'm Shara Miller. I'm a people strategist, and I am your host today. And I also just wanted to mention that I've been a people strategist for a long time. I've worked in healthcare systems, and also I do HR with a Heart career coaching to help people through all these transitioning times, as well as I am a proud chief HR officer and owner of a company called Rocky Mountain Health Advocates, and where I get to use all these people strategies. Also, you'll notice here is Sam Reeve, and he is a reward strategist and is just a phenomenal talent with his team. In fact, his team has helped me with my compensation and total reward strategies, and excellent, as well as the host and the sponsor of our People Strategies Forums. And hello, Sumit. We have Sumit with us as well, and has just been a pleasure for us to work with. And take a look at his background. He has just got a strong intellect, out of the box thinking, and also has kind of a diversity and inclusion perspective of a global society around people strategies. So he's been a joy to work with. So before we kick off our topic today, just wanted to mention that this is an interactive webinar and forum. So if you are on our webinar, please participate with us in the chat down below. Let us know that you're here and mention anything you would like to talk about, questions, commentary, Q&A, or even if you have ideas for other topics that you really would like us to focus on, we'd like to hear from you. Also, are we doing a poll today, Sam?
Yes, I'll bring that up towards the end, and so people can. The poll is about signing up for our international talent management workshop that is being put on by TMA. We're sponsoring that, and it's going to take place at the I believe next month on the 23rd. So I'll show you that when we get to the end of the session here. I'll put up the sign up sheet, and please join us for that. That'll be a wonderful experience in hearing
Right.
about different leaders and what they're doing across the globe.
So, and I also want to just say my regrets to the team. I am running off. I have to leave, so I won't be closing at the very end, but Sam and Sumit will. And so anyway, let's kick it off. So as Sumit and Sam, you're going to be talking about high performance teams, correct?
That's right. That's right. And let me just go ahead and share my screen just one moment here, because I took that down. Back up. Okay,
Yeah,
there
it's
we
great.
go.
Interactive
yes,
discussion.
yeah, talk a little bit about creating and rewarding high performing teams. And the first thing that I want to cover, though, is the service profit chain. So this is a concept that was created by Heskett and right around that 2000 timeframe. And the important part of the business profit chain is it really drives the concept that businesses need to invest in their people. And what we're doing here is we're showing, the rationale for that. So if you're looking for a program or some validation for your leadership to invest in certain programs that you're bringing up, this is a concept that you can introduce them to. And so it's based on what I call the three-legged stool, which is the for any business to be successful, they need to think about the company's needs, such as making sure that you're profitable and you're stable and so forth. You're going to have your coworkers' needs, and then you're going to have your customers' needs. And so what the service profit chain demonstrates is that this is all a nurturing biome, right? So we have the company needs to be stable to invest in their coworkers, and the more than they invest in their coworkers, they create an environment where coworkers can be creative, develop really meaningful products and services for the customers to enjoy. And when the customers like those products and services, they become more loyal and continue to invest in the company. And this is a nurturing environment to where it helps the success of companies. So when you're thinking about your next program and getting support for that, think of the service profit chain. Heskett really did a nice job in putting this together in a way that supports how supporting those or investing in those services in your people can improve your overall company health. So.
And what's very interesting about this chain, Sam, is that traditionally we used to believe in customer being the king, and it was more of a linear process earlier, that you start with the customer in mind, and you don't really care if you're steamrolling your workers in the process, or not focusing on revenues or the outcomes for the company. But I think it's absolutely amazing that we've reached this stage where we're trying to build a virtuous cycle where there's no single starting point. You say that, yes, we'll invest in the well-being of our workers. We'll make sure that they're well taken care of so that they can do justice to our customers. And eventually, as the company grows, the cycle carries on because your workers feel better and customers are better and better served. So it's a win-win for all the parties concerned in this particular scenario. So absolutely amazing model, I think.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, just if we think about the past 10 years and what we've heard through a lot of press and experts in the field, they say, okay, well, we need to think about the shareholder, which is around the company, right? And then there is a focus on thinking about the customer. The customer is always right. We need to think about them. And then there's a movement of, oh, we need to think about our people. They're the most important. Our people come first. And but this model is cut to the chase several years ago, where it's really a nurturing environment for all three. So it's something to definitely consider. Great. So and the reason why we're bringing this up is because we're talking about teams and how to invest in your teams and create, and so that they're high performing, you have the right people and so forth, and we know how to reward them. And so there's the first part of that we would like to introduce is back into thinking of selecting the right people. And how do we select the right people? We need to make sure that the individuals that we have for our team are intrinsically motivated, that they're not only excited to do their own job, but they want to extend that into the team environment, and they're excited about the team collaboration and so forth. So there's a lot of things to think about here. So as far as intrinsic motivation, just to go through that, if you haven't heard about this, I mean, this is a concept that was brought up by highlighted by a lot of authors that in the past few years, such as Dan Pink and Simon Sinek has mentioned, has been along with this in his Infinite Game book as well. But intrinsic motivation is that natural drive that we have for doing the things that we love. So it's things that this is the reason, this is the passion of why we come to work. So we need to find people that have the talent and competencies in their particular work and have passion for that. So have you seen this a lot in your environment, Sumit, and how have you seen this applied?
So, I mean, Sam, I'd like to believe that all of us are intrinsically motivated in some way or the other. And there are so many heartwarming stories that we hear every day of somebody who's, say, 80 years old planting fruit trees, which will not bear fruit in their lifetime. I mean, so they're not doing it for any external reward. They're not doing it to win any kinds of prizes. Uh, so as an HR practitioner, what I like to believe is that almost everyone who joins an organization wants to be successful, wants to do good quality work. So you want people to recognize you for doing great work, and not because you're necessarily winning any medals or getting some kind of financial or other gain out of it. So um, in organizations as well, you find people who are just happy being brands in themselves and saying that I would like to be known for doing good work. I'd like to earn the respect of my peer group, and I get a sense of accomplishment when I do fantastic work. So, and I do see this a lot in the gig economy, especially where a lot of projects that one delivers don't have one's name on them. So there's a lot of ghostwriting that happens. There's a lot of opportunity to do great work. Just that you are working behind the scenes. What keeps you going is the fact that, of course, yes, you're getting paid for it, but more than that, when a client comes up and says, "I put this up on my site and it got say 1,000 likes," it makes you happy. So I think that's what intrinsic motivation is all about.
Right. But I think one thing to remember on this, because a lot of times, well, here at CompTeam, we focus on employee performance. And just because you have intrinsic motivation doesn't mean that they're going to be a high performer. So, but it's definitely the first step. So the first thing is, and so what I mean by this is that consider that you're hiring a college grad or an entry level person out of the workforce, and they may have a huge passion to do that particular job that you've hired them for. They're excited, they want to perform their best and so forth, but unfortunately they just don't have the experience, and so they're not really talented at that competency set yet, but they will be as you develop them. But they just aren't, they're not there yet. So they can only contribute at a certain level, even though that they have high intrinsic motivation. So
I completely agree, Sam. And I think where a lot of folks get this wrong is essentially falling into the trap which I seem to have laid out. So you get so enthralled by the idea of intrinsic motivation and believe that people are so focused on that intrinsic drive that you forget to build in the other part of it, which is the extrinsic motivation, saying, well, they want to do a good job. So anyone who's not intrinsically motivated is not fit for this place. I don't need to do anything else except for picking up people who are intrinsically motivated. So I mean, I think that's what messes up a lot of motivation schemes or reward and recognition programs.
Right. I mean, it is a balance, right? I mean, that
Absolutely.
we start out for that. It's important to first make sure that you have that intrinsic motivation among our teams, and then we're looking at focusing their behavior and focusing the output using other factors such as extrinsic motivation. And so these work best when they're working together, and they can really drive performance in this factor. We'll drive a little bit more in that in just a moment. So the first thing I want to show here is that, you know, or to demonstrate, is that there's certain jobs that are more intrinsically motivated than others, right? So if we think of the different jobs in our workplace, we think about the different mix. We have marketing, and we have web designers and things like this that are more intrinsically motivated. That, you know, they're more creative roles. And then we have other positions that, such as perhaps like sales and you know, maybe finance and so forth, that may be a little bit more on the extrinsic side. Have you seen these in your environments, Sumit?
Yes, in fact, this makes a lot of sense, Sam. And specifically, I've seen salespeople who are really, really target oriented, and what keeps them going is how much more than their fixed pay can they get to uh, by just focusing on the target and chasing it. And I mean, they feel recognized by the fact that they're doing a great job at sales. And I mean, I'm just picking that as an example because it's the top of your list, but that applies to a lot of the extrinsically motivated roles. And in fact, even when you talk about artists and roles on the right side, I mean, I think while they might be more intrinsically motivated, extrinsic motivation does matter, right? So we don't see artists who are distributing all of their work for free. They do expect to be paid a reasonable amount of compensation for it. They do expect to not only be honored for great work they're creating, but also to be recognized in a financial or other manner for it. So I do think extrinsic motivation is a crucial part of both sides, for sure.
Right, and it's important to remember that when we're talking about financial or cash compensation and pay, there's first a threshold that needs to be met. It's just like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And you need to have those basic needs met. You have to have enough money to be able to you know, support your family and pay for food and housing and so forth. And then when we get to a certain level, then we need to make sure that we have pay that is competitive, and that will ensure that there's the foundation for motivation towards other things that are not in that basic needs category can flourish. So then that's where, of course, we're talking about intrinsic motivation, and then focusing with the extrinsic factors. So
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point about the threshold that you mentioned, Sam. And a personal example is that I do double up as a copywriter. So there are clients who have done prior work with, and there are times when they've offered me a really, really low amount of money to do an assignment for them. And I've told them that I do like to see my name in print or, I mean, in cyberspace. On a site as a creator, but I'd rather do this for free than be paid below the threshold. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that sometimes when you're trying to build extrinsic motivation, you can actually end up doing damage to the cause if the threshold is not being met. And a person might actually say, I don't think this is worth the extra effort because I'm just not motivated to do it. So I would have done it for the intrinsic part of it, but by bringing in a poorly maintained threshold, you've actually driven me the other way.
Yeah, so that's why we kind of think of this as a pyramid. First we're looking at for that intrinsic motivation, and we're putting together teams, selecting people that have that, not only have the right role and competencies, but also have the desire to work on that team's goal and their what they're formed for. And then once that intrinsic motivation is met, then we use methods of recognition to encourage them and to make that to motivate and foster that drive. And then we can use those intrinsic factors to focus, and that would be the tip of the pyramid. And we want to make sure that we're driving those right behaviors and driving those outcomes and so forth. Now, one thing that another piece here that I want to bring attention to, and you all know that we're all fans of the TMA method here at CompTeam, and we're all about bringing the right people together for the role that they're in. And so when we're thinking of this, it's important to understand everybody's driven by a different type of mindset when they think about learning and development and the people that they want to collaborate with and so forth. And so we're looking for impactful teams. This particular model that the TMA method brings up is I find very impactful. So basically, it starts with the concept that there's 4 types of way people learn and develop. Their preferences, right? You might have a structured learning style, or it might be a little bit more practical, hands-on, or creative, or theoretical, or you like that classroom environment, or you can think of those concepts in a high-oriented way. And so there's people that have preferences in each one of these areas. And when the TMA assessment is given to an individual, it helps define what is their preference of learning. And so here on this particular graph, we see this individual is right down here towards the creative side. As you can see, this light blue dot on this matrix here. And so when we're putting teams together, and we would like to ensure that we have people that are paired together almost. So for instance, we have one person that is mostly driven from the creative side. That's the way that they learn and interact. And we can stretch them by giving them a mentor or a peer that is more theoretical, and that will help them, bridge that understanding or so forth. The next is you could also pair them with a person that is more practical as well, and that can help them expand their horizons. But it is quite a leap for a creative person to be paired up with a structured person. That may cause a bit of frustration and the difference of that style. So by bringing the right people on the team, you can create a bridge over to that structured side. If you're a creative person, but you want to have more, you want that the team to come up with something that is a little bit more, they're methodical as far as achieving a particular goal. You can take advantage of that creative side, and also the structured side if you have people that are also practical and theoretical on that spectrum. So it can be a real powerful way. Those assessments will can show different ways of making this come to be.
Absolutely. In fact, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Sumit, have you in practice, you have some stories that you've witnessed team building in some of the companies you've worked with, and how they get along better with certain mindsets?
So I really agree with what you said about how stressful it can be in case there's one creative person thrown into a mix of folks who are structured or vice versa. So how I've used a similar construct in the past has been creating almost like a heat map. So I did a leadership workshop for some 20 odd managers and senior managers once, and created a heat map of what were the capabilities that they had and what they were missing out on. So for example, we found that there weren't too many unstructured or creative thinkers in the team, and that was constraining their ability to think of new ideas. And when this information was presented in that heat map kind of a format, that's when it became very clear to themselves. So before I had a chance to say anything, they were like, wow, okay, we never realized this, but it does connect with some of the issues we have functioning as a highly effective or a successful team. And then they started giving each other feedback, and they started giving feedback about what they need to do to fix some of those gaps. So I mean, I see the biggest takeaway here being that of building in team diversity. So it would be a good mix of people if you've got practical and theoretical people. So if you only had the theoretical folks, you'd only think of new and fancy ideas. You'd never really get down to building them up. If you only had the practical people, you'd have folks who are willing to do all the heavy lifting, but nobody who's really thinking of the future. So they're all in the here and the now, but no one's thinking of 2 years or 5 years down the line. So I think team diversity is absolutely crucial, and playing these insights back to the team. So it really helps in building their self-awareness as well.
Right. And I think that there's a good way to, and we're thinking about traditional teams and their purpose. It's when you're constructing teams and putting them together, it's important to think about their overall purpose and the duties that they're trying to accomplish, right? And so here's an example of a variety of different teams. Could you take us through this, Sumit?
Definitely. So process teams or functional teams are regular teams of, say, HR folks or finance folks or any department or team within an organization. So that's more of folks who always work together. They're part of a regular team that's a fixed point in time. A parallel or a cross-functional team could be, let's say you're creating a team with people from different functions because you're trying to launch a new product or a new service. So you need folks from, say, HR to figure out what are the skills required for people who will be doing this job. You need sales folks to contribute insights around the target market, etc. You need finance to do your business plan, and so on and so forth. So the entire team comes together with a diverse set of skills and competencies to figure out what's happening next. And in fact, this is one of the biggest emerging needs across organizations, and they're resorting to different ways and means to do it. So there are agile internal marketplaces coming up where you can pretty much post a job internally and say that this is a project that we're doing. We need these 2 or 3 skills on it. If you're interested and you can contribute some of your own time, we welcome you on board. So you end up building connections across the globe as an employee. You get to work on something that you're passionate about, and there's of course a chance to get recognized. And of course, it's new and it's exciting in terms of value creation. So Accenture's been doing it for ages. Unilever's started using AI to get this done, and quite a few of the larger organizations are trying to leverage the power of a global workforce to go cross-functional. So a project team would be something similar to a parallel team. Only difference could be that it could be, it doesn't necessarily have to be diverse. So one would see a lot of this in, say, a consulting kind of a workforce where you've got a project, so you get a team of 2 or 3 consultants to do it, or you add 1 or 2 people who are on the technical side to, say, build out a survey and so on and so forth. But a project team typically would not have as much of a diversity as a parallel or a cross-functional team would. And also, prior to the remote work boom, thanks to the pandemic, it was more usual for project teams to be based in similar locations than parallel teams. And the last one here is the hybrid team, which of course has, so I like to think of this in say a sports kind of a metaphor where you've got 2 or 3 players who will always make the team, who've got fixed roles, and then there are players you substitute in or out depending on what kind of special skill or what kind of game changer you're looking at in terms of performance. So that would be a rotating team member who's part-time, and they would be aware of their role, that they may not be a fixed member of the team every time, but they would be called upon from the bench to make a strong contribution.
Right. I think what we're doing here on the People Strategy Forum is a good example of a hybrid team. I mean, we have permanent members that we meet on a regular basis, and we provide these forums and so forth, and we bring in experts for specific fields to dive into the details on whether it may be the book that they've written or some special experience that they've had, so that they can and even enhance the outcome of why we're here to inform. So that's a great example of a hybrid team of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I'd like to mention also is, just as we're thinking about these different team types, let's get into a little bit of the reward discussion on how rewards would be different when we're looking at these different team types. Now, when we're looking at a particular functional or traditional type team that you see in that, as we show here as a process team, a lot of the reward strategies are something that you would consider pretty traditional. I mean, of course, competitive base pay, maybe that short-term incentive or in recognition programs, and the mix is based on, like we said before, their intrinsic, extrinsic preference. So if we're looking at a functional group that is more in that artistic or more intrinsically motivated type field, we're going to be looking at a higher level of competitive base pay with little or maybe no bonus at all, and a good stream of recognition programs that good communication, good feedback is really essential for those types of groups. Whereas we mentioned some of those more extrinsically motivated type on the other side of the spectrum, we'd be looking at potentially more types of variable pay type plans and focusing their behavior. They're typically a little bit more of a riskier group as far as what they like in pay and variable, including long-term rewards, but that it's best suitable for certain job types, like we mentioned, sales and those types of roles that are driven more by extrinsically, by that sense of accomplishment or gamification. So something to consider there. Next, in the parallel area, cross-functional teams, when we're bringing people in on a part-time basis, typically the best type of reward here is to have recognition type programs. And in some situation, it could be some bonus or unexpected bonus for completion here, but usually in the parallel team, they're coming together for a shared purpose, and recognition is the mode of reward that works best here. Now, in project teams, this is a situation where you can use some of those project completion bonuses to really drive quality and completion of that product and that objective. And so that is a common common tool. And a hybrid could be a mix of all these. But I do want to point out something, and Susan was mentioning this on the chat here, and that is very important to consider, is to get really creative with our recognition. So recognition is that, like the old model of okay, you keep your seat warm for a year and you get a special reward or a trinket, is not a very effective recognition method that's going to drive performance, right? We're looking for something that is going to be more meaningful. And nowadays it's important to know your employees more than ever. And this is the reason why traditional annual performance reviews have failed. And the reason why we're driving towards more real-time feedback, one-on-one interaction. And is another reason why the TMA method is such a great tool right now, because what we start with is the fact that we're trying to get to know each other a lot better. And the TMA assessment, when we give a colleague a TMA assessment, it comes back and it tells us their particular work preferences, the way that they what their drives and talents are, and a little bit about themselves. Not to go based on that assessment itself. It's meant to drive a conversation so that we can sit down and go through it together and say, so I, tell me a little bit more about the way you like to work with others. And you go through that process to learn about one another. Also, part of that conversation is how they like to be rewarded, how they like to be recognized and how they like to be managed. Do they need a lot of help, a little help? Are they pretty much autonomous? We learn all of this through these conversations. And so the point is that understanding what really drives an individual and what makes them feel recognized and rewarded from their employer. And so when we know this information, then we can create real recognition plans that are customized for them, that really has impact and drives that success. Have you seen situations where this has been successful in organizations where they customize rewards, Sumit, in this fashion?
Yes, absolutely. So I worked with a technology client, Sam, and they had a recognition program where they'd custom created. So instead of boring old certificates, etc., they custom created little artifacts. So somebody would get a fancy little USB drive. Somebody would get a little 3D printed statuette of themselves. So whoever was the MVP would get a little 3D printed statue of themselves, just a couple of inches tall, but it made them feel really good. And it would say things like most valued player of the month or of the quarter. And they actually spent a fair bit of money, but research that they did internally said that their engagement scores went up as a result of doing this. So people were pretty happy with custom recognition and rewards.
Right. And when we think about recognition, it's not just, top down or from the company to the employee or so forth. When we're talking about teams, it's really creating a culture of recognition within that team, so that team can be high performing, and that's in making sure that there's a good relationship among those team members. And what I'd like to do is show you a quick way that the TMA tool does this. Let me just share my screen here real quick. And I'll show you an example that we can go through. So right now what we're looking at is the TMA Portal. And there's a lot of selections here. There's so much power in this tool. But what I want to show you here is specifically building the right team members based on a specific purpose. And so once we've administered the TMA assessment across the organization and we've understand the particular competencies people have and how talented they are through 360-degree feedbacks, we'll be able to develop an effective talent pool of all our people in the organization. And so let's go through a particular theory. For instance, what if we're bringing together a team that we want to take out on a road show to go help raise money for the organization, or maybe you're a nonprofit, they're out raising funds, and you need to have people that are have certain competency set. For instance, maybe just in this example, we'll use they have to be assertive and they have to have ambition, but also some business orientation, so that and commercial power, so they know to apply a company's what the company has to offer. And so as we look at these particular competencies and we put it in a tool like the TMA, it'll search the talent pool and say, okay, these are the people that have the strong competency sets. And in our example here, it could be, Edith and Henry and Isaac have shown that they have competency in this. But remember, the discussion I had earlier, sometimes you have people that may have competence or passion in a particular area, but it's not yet developed. So what we really need to do is knowing this, we need to have the frame of are they talented? And so in a situation like this, the team that we're trying to create is, right, for instance, going out to raise money or to raise money or to show our products to investors and so forth. So we're going to look at a variety of things. We want to make sure that the team is going to work well with one another, but they're going to be able to be very influential. So when we look at let's look at dominance here. So the dominance is a way that team is going to work well together. A person's not going to be take charge of the entire team and be over domineering. We want people that are going to be balanced, that are going to be cooperative, but also be impactful. So we're going to look at that. The other thing is we want to make sure that person is on the team are extroverted. They're going to be talking to a lot of people and trying to be influential. So we want them to be extroverted. The next is to be purposeful. And so we want them to accomplish this goal within a certain amount of time and be very structured by that. And then finally, maybe we want them to be independent thinking and have more of a team environment. So let me just find that here, independent thinking. There we go. So team oriented. So we'll choose that. Now I'm going to select our talent group based on this. And here we have a list of people that come up. We have Anton, Sigmund, and John, some people that are strong candidates that fill these particular talents for this particular purpose of the team that we're constructing. So a tool like this can be very impactful to selecting those team members and to at least begin the discussion with them about forming a high performing team. So I know we've gone through a lot of things today and showing you not only how to create a high performing team, but also looking at rewards and focusing behavior around this and motivation. So do you have any other thing that I missed, Sumit, that you'd like to bring up?
No, I think the last part that you mentioned, Sam, I think it makes a lot of sense. And that's where, again, picking up examples from sports, the most successful sports teams are those where the focus is not on bringing a lot of talented people together and expecting them to perform, but figuring out what kind of team player are you looking at. So how can you get just the right people who may not be the most talented in that domain, but have the right attitude, have the right talents and competencies to contribute meaningfully to the team. And the next step, of course, so step one is, of course, figuring out who those people are, how do you get them on board, and then how do you keep them there with a strongly defined recognition and engagement kind of a program.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we're talking when we get in the aspect of onboarding the team and then retaining the team. I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into there, and that'll be part of different sessions. But that workforce experience, that overall experience that they have, it includes, you know, how people think of leadership and how well goals are disseminated across the company, the vision of that company and the purpose of that team that they're on, you know, how well that they're developed and they're invested in. All those pieces and more are part of the employee value proposition that needs to be considered, that retains these people and keeps them motivated. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody for their time today. And if you have any questions, please put them in. Did we miss any questions, Sumit, in the comments here?
Questions? No, not really. But there was, I must thank all the people who participated in the chat and made some great points about how intrinsic rewards should be discussed with employees. So I think that's a great point which was made. I think that was Susan saying that. that it would be great to figure out what people need, and design rewards according to that, rather than simply being prescriptive.
Yes. Yeah. Customized rewards is a uh, it's a very well, it's top of mind right now, is with a lot of companies, and there's a trade-off, right? I mean, customized rewards is a little bit more administratively burdensome, and so you need to trade that with the streamlined approach. So smaller companies can offer those customized rewards. And and this is a conversation I have a lot with developing startups and mid-sized companies. They're saying, "Oh, how do I compete with the pay of Amazon or Google or whatever?" And it's really around your employee value proposition, customizing those rewards to something that is meaningful for those individuals and those teams. So that's really the answer to that question.
So on that note, Sam, I think so we allow employees to have a lot of flexibility in the way they structure their compensation to meet their taxation needs, the needs of their insurance, whatever they require for their dependents, and so on. But when it comes to rewards, we're much more prescriptive as organizations. And one of the interesting things that I've seen happening is, there's a company that provides rewards consulting here in India, and they create things like gift boxes. So you're given a gift box. So let's say you've got a reward for, say, $500. So you'd have 10 or 12 different kinds of gift certificates. You can choose to redeem any one of them. So it could
Mm.
be a skydiving coupon, it could be a dinner date for two at a fancy restaurant, and so on and so forth. So you'd have some 10, 12 options to pick from, and you can choose whichever one is most meaningful for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of services that provide things like that, especially in the recognition space.
Right.
When it comes to cash pay, we need to be careful because of the equal pay and laws and so forth. Even in paying people consistently, giving them the same opportunities for pay if they're in that comparable, in jobs of comparable worth or value, or and how they perform their role. So cash is a little bit troublesome when it comes to doing the different types of options there. But when it comes to recognition and those types of rewards and benefits, as long as we give people the same options and to choose from, then they can go in and customize something that is the most meaningful for them. And yeah, there's programs that are point-based programs where people can earn points based on their performance, or peers can give them recognize them through points, and they can amass those points and go to a catalog of different rewards and choose something that's experiential or or even a product. And and but there's a lot of, when we look at getting creative with recognition, sometimes people get hung up on the experiential side, saying that, oh, well, how are we going to make different tiers in experiential awards? And you can do this. So for example, if uh, for a high performing team, you could say, okay, uh, this team, if you hit this level of performance, then you'll all be eligible to go out to a conference. I mean, in the days where we can go to a conference, right? And in some nice location, that they enjoy, and maybe a exotic location, or a nice hotel or resort or something like this. The And then it could be another tier of performance on top of that. The other tier of performance on top of that could be the fact that, okay, in addition of going with the team, each team member can bring their spouse, and so then you're getting the family involved, and that is very powerful and memorable. As part of a reward, if you can take your spouse on a trip that's exotic like that, I mean, he or she is going to remember that, is in and is going to be a fan of your company for providing something. But let's say that the next tier above this is that you're able to bring your spouse, plus you get to stay the weekend, and that could be another tier of an experiential reward that you can provide, to encourage greater amounts of performance. So there's a lot of options there.
Agreed, Sam.
So, if I think that we've covered all the questions. We have anything else? I think that if any, let me just check. We have a few more comments here before we close. All right, great. I think if anybody has any more questions or comments, I know right now we're multicasting on a lot of different platforms. And so what I'll make sure that we do is we'll go and look at those other platforms to see if there's any questions. We can answer those here. Here on Zoom, it's easy to take these live. But also I want to let you know what's going on in with the People Strategy Forum here next week. Let me just scoot forward real quick. Next week, we're going to have Wendy Graham speak. She's going to be talking about investing in your people for increased performance. And she's a dedicated trainer and is trained across many companies. And so she has a lot of great ideas to share here. And then also, I want to bring attention to our international talent management forum, where we're going to have a lot of speakers. We have Andre Bloom, he's the leader of the TMA Method and internationally, and some of our partners. So we have Andreas Fritsch, who is a top leadership consultant, out of I'm missing it, the location. Well, out of Europe, of course, and Jorge Martinez and Philly are going to be joining us from South America, talking about ways that to do that onboarding and developing of people. And then Peter Toblins is also going to join us, an excellent speaker that as part of an talent management expert. So I definitely encourage everybody to sign up. I'll go ahead and put release our poll so you can sign up here, and I'll make sure that you get information. And then also alternatively, you can go on to LinkedIn, and you'll be able to, if you go to my profile, you'll see another opportunity to sign up there. So let me know if you're interested in attending that, and we'll send you the invite, and hope to see you there. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Sounds exciting.
We'll talk to you soon. Everyone, take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.